With a budget of $30 million, Totem marks the second collaboration with director Robert Lepage, following Ka.
My name is Robert Lepage. I'm the main conceiver, writer, designer, and director of Totem.
An intimate tent show inspired by the 200th anniversary of Charles Darwin's birth premiered in Montreal on April 22, 2010. A fascinating journey into the evolution of mankind from its incredible amphibian state towards the aspirations of flight, taking inspiration from many of humanity's founding myths on an island invoking the shape of a giant turtle. Along the way, it also explores our dreams and infinite potential, including the ties that bind us both to our collective animal origins and to the species that shares the planet with us. With scenes from the story of evolution randomly linked together in a chain, Totem returns to the beginning of organic life, featuring Neanderthals, Cro-Magnons, primates, and men in suits, among many others. The word totem contains the idea of the order of species. We carry in our bodies the potential of all species, all the way to our desire to fly, like the thunderbird at the top of the totem pole. Kim Barrett's initial approach to the costume design was rooted in documentary-based reality. She points to the example of a forest populated by butterflies and frogs. The show's theme is reflected in the costumes with a cycle of seasons, which underscores the importance of nature. Neon bright colors, vivid shiny fabrics, and playful details lend a summer atmosphere to the Bollywood-inspired beach scene. To suggest a time of harvest and the abundance of fall, the unicyclist costumes feature seed pods, flowers, trees, and leaves. And the two roller skaters are dressed in white and silver to help create a winter tableau. All of Cirque's previous touring productions were originally created to be performed inside the Grand Chapiteau, but many of those shows have since been restaged in arenas and other venues after the conclusion of their Big Top tour. The creation team faced the challenge of designing a show that could be adapted for arenas and other venues from the outset. Totem is considered the company's first hybrid production.
I like turtles.
The turtle represents the earth and carries the entire weight of the world on its shell. This totemic animal is also omnipresent in the scenic environments. The large oval framework on the stage represents the skeletal structure of a huge turtle shell that serves both as a decorative set element and as acrobatic equipment. The border of the stage recalls the plastron of a turtle. The motifs on the surface of the stage itself are a collage of hand-drawn images inspired by the patterns on the underside of several turtle species. Set designer Carl Fillion gave it curves and non-linear forms to reflect the natural world. The concept of the Scorpion Bridge was loosely based on a retractable pedestrian bridge in London. In one of the clown numbers, it becomes the prow of a boat, then rises to become a plane in flight, and finally a rocket taking off. In another scene, the bridge is configured to look like a vertical totem pole. Bordering the marsh upstage, the reeds conceal the artist and some set elements before they enter. To save weight and facilitate storage on tour, the reeds were inflatable. At the back, the musician's platform is approximately 10 feet off the ground. Tilted slightly forward, the marsh acts both as a stage entrance and as a projection surface. Through the magic of moving images, it becomes a virtual swamp, a river source, a volcanic island, a lake, an ocean, a pond, and a starry sky. Indigenous influences and vocal rhythms are brought together through the imagination of Bob and Bill. Intersecting cultures and genres, the duo work closely with the stage artist to provide each acrobatic act with its own representation and energy. The result tells the story of humanity by weaving together native music and instruments from around the world, ranging from North America's First Nations, Spanish flamenco, to the sounds of the Indian subcontinent.
So I know that the people doesn't understand when I talk or when I sing, but my mother, she always told me that when I sing with your heart.
It's called Totem. It's about how within ourselves we have the memory of all these different animals, and that you can't really divide the state of a human being and the state of animals, that we're all part of one big itinerary going somewhere up there. So this is pretty much what Totem is about.
As Totem begins, life is brought to the primordial suits of the developing planet Earth, seeded by a dazzling ball of energy from the starry sky. Personified by the Crystal Man, the show's poster character, who symbolizes the universal force of life. He is the harbinger of said existence, sparking the evolution of human life on Earth. To create that proverbial fireball that seeded our world, giving way to 12 acts and performances that exemplify the evolution of mankind. Early in the show, we see him animate the turtle skeleton, and at the end, he closes the show by diving into a lagoon. This recurring character represents the life force. His dazzling costume is entirely covered of small mirrors and crystals. The glittering mobile mosaic is made up of about 4,500 reflective components on a stretch velvet leotard. A giant turtle at center stage represents the origins of life on Earth. The creature's shell is whisked away to reveal an effervescent community of amphibians and fish that live beneath the carapace. They burst into a playful parallel bars number, with artists embodying frogs launching themselves into the air from a power track and leaping from one bar to the next, crisscrossing in mid-air with inches to spare. In the opening scene, the marsh is populated by fish and frogs. Their patterns and colors come from real fish and frogs, including the most poisonous frog in the Amazon jungle, and are replicated by the pixelation of the image in the screen printing process. The textures of the fabrics are also close to match the skin of fish and frogs found in nature. The end result resembles a community of human amphibians. The turtle skeleton weighs 2,700 pounds, includes 2 horizontal bars, and is completely covered in a non-slip finish. An artist performs a native dance using hoops to create static and dramatic shapes to evoke various animals and images in a ritual that symbolizes the endless circle of life. The young Amerindian dancer takes us into a magical world, tracing the history of evolution of species with his rings. The hoop dancer's costume is inspired by the traditional ceremonial clothing of a number of North American Indian tribes, rather than an accurate portrayal of any one culture. It includes a hoppy cross and headdress and features extensive use of leather.
The hoop dance is a traditional dance done by the Native Americans. It was originally created by the Taos Pueblo tribe, which is from New Mexico. The hoops that I use represent eternity. And you also see different plants and animals like the butterfly. And as it all, once again, comes together to see the eagle. So as you watch the hoop dance, watch for the different plants and animals that you'll see. And as they all come together to eventually form the world.
Valentino, the macho, chatty, boastful provocateur. With his camera in hand, he is a lively, arrogant tourist who litters and disturbs. Bollywood-inspired music accompanies 2 men in this number as they compete against each other on 2 sets of gymnastic rings, with the hopes of impressing a pretty woman lounging nearby. With their sheer physical strength, that is until she shows them how it's done. During this number, the Scorpion Bridge turns into an Indian carpet that unrolls on the beach in a reference to the Bollywood aesthetic that inspired the overall look of this scene. The abundance of fall is represented by the harvest colors and details of the costumes as 5 unicyclists juggle metal bowls in an outstanding display of agility, balance, synchronized control, and physical grace. Each unicyclist has their own look, but together they form an integrated unit. The base costumes are printed in earth tones with small details sewn into them, including bolts and screws, as well as feathers and insects. The unicycles are 7 foot tall but very light, which makes them easier to maneuver down the ramp at the beginning of the act. The clown fisherman, a practical man, is wary of fuss and extravagance. He finds a silver lining or a still pot for every situation life throws his way. Two industrious creatures emerge from the sea to play, crawl, twist, and build complex pyramids on the seashore. Their incredible figures seem to defy both gravity and physics. Two crystal ladies emerge from the fiery bowels of the earth to invoke the creation of the world and the beauty of minerals. Wearing sparkling costumes that mirror the Crystal Man, the artists spin squares of glittering material on their hands and feet before coming together to create a dazzling display of coordination and high-speed motion. A troupe of 5 or 6 characters mark the progress of human evolution from ape to businessmen with cell phones. The businessman is stripped bare and flung into the heart of the jungle where his inner struggle is put to test. Atop a tree-like structure, inspired by the acrobatic discipline of Chinese pole, man and primate circle and climb in a battle for dominance. The tracker appears as a virile toreador spinning his Diablos to a sizzling flamenco-inspired beat. Environmentally conscious, a friend to the animals, he guides and assists the scientist in his explorations. Angered by the thoughtless, polluting actions of a clown, he transforms before our very eyes into a toreador. Like two lovebirds, a young man and woman tease, play, and sulk in an innocent game of seduction and eventually intertwine their bodies in a light-hearted vertical dance of fresh, unusual movements and lifts. The scientist represents reason and the quest to understand the universe in ways that can be quantified. A Darwin-esque explorer who visits the different worlds of the show. Aided by his assistants and a monkey, he dazzles us with his amazing physics experiments. His laboratory features an orchestra of glass containers filled with mysterious fluorescent fluids as he steps into a transparent cone and juggles with luminous balls that might represent planets or molecules or both. Valentino and the sad fisherman clown go on a boat ride. Surrounded by members of numerous tribes, the dancer returns to create new figures with his hoops, finishing with a globe that he raises high above his head. In a scene that invokes a wedding ceremony, a pair of roller skaters spin and whirl at heart-stopping speeds atop a tiny platform just 1.8 meters in diameter, shaped like a drum. Wearing colorful costumes inspired in part by the lost civilizations of South America, 10 artists perform feats of strength, balance, and acrobatic movements. The jumpers are launched into the air and fly weightlessly across the sky like cosmonauts, leaping from one bar to the next with astounding agility in a thrilling avocation of human desire to escape the Earth's gravity. The cosmonauts are wearing 2 costumes in one. When they first appear under the black light, their body-hugging lycra suits glow dramatically in the dark, but as soon as the stage lights kick in, their look completely transformed. Some of the painted motifs recall Mayan drawings, and each artist is wearing an individual variation of that theme. The show ends on a high note, climacting with a fantastic dance number featuring all of the cast and characters. The choreography is actually a Native American dance performed to call forth the positive energies that surround the dancer.
Hi, my name is Valentino. Valentino! Totem! we've been on the road for 4 years with this show, so to finally be able to come here to LA and to have this kind of gala premiere is super exciting.
From Cirque du Soleil's critically acclaimed show, Totem, please welcome Denise and Massimo!
Seen for the first time on British television. It's Cirque du Soleil! 1, 2, 3, get down. Come on, yeah, yeah. Come on, yeah. Come on, yeah. Yeah, come on, yeah. Come on, yeah. Come on, yeah.
But yeah, it's the first time it is presented in Europe and in Germany. The show has been running for 10 years now. We will be celebrating the 10th anniversary in April.
Okay, not in Munich?
Not in Munich, unfortunately. We're going to be in Rome. But yeah, in 2 months we will be celebrating 10 years of Totem.
Responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, Cirque announced that all 44 active shows worldwide would be suspended. 4,679 employees, comprising of 95% of their staff, would be temporarily laid off, effective immediately. During its 400-day hiatus, Cirque's revenues plummeted to zero. On June 29, 2020, the company announced that it had filed for bankruptcy protection and was terminating 3,500 employees who had previously been laid off. Then CEO Daniel Lamar stated the intentions of the company was to rehire a substantial majority of terminated employees once corona-related shutdowns were lifted and operations could resume. November 24, 2020, it was announced that the company had emerged from bankruptcy. January 2021, the company's previously announced production NASA was canceled, along with Under the Same Sky. Summer 2021. The company begins gradually reopening several shows, beginning with all Vegas-based resident productions with the exception of Zumanity, and a handful of touring shows in late 2021 and early 2022. However, some of those shows that had been temporarily suspended are retroactively permanently closed at this time, including Axel, Volta, and Totem.